When I finally started earning more than anyone thought I could, I thought life would get easier. Instead, the people closest to me turned against me in ways I never saw coming. There was a time when I knew the exact cost of a gallon of milk, down to the cent. When my fridge held more condiment packets than actual food. When Friday nights meant sitting in the dark with my phone on airplane mode just to stretch my last $20 bill until payday. That kind of broke does something to you. It does not leave when the money finally shows up. It stays in your bones. Back then, I was the one always turning down plans. Maybe next time, I would say, knowing damn well there would not be a next time. I had friends, guys like Ronnie and Jeff, who would laugh it off and call me the responsible one. But I could feel the pity in their eyes. Every time the check hit the table and they glanced at me before reaching for their wallets. Every time someone suggested splitting the bill evenly even though I had just ordered water and fries. Family was not much better. My cousin Drew once said I was wasting my potential by working in a warehouse. He said it in that tone people use when they are pretending to be helpful, like he was doing me a favor by reminding me I was behind. I remember smiling and nodding while my insides curled up in shame. But what no one saw was what happened when I went home after those long shifts, after lifting pallets for 12 hours straight, after showering in that cracked tub with water that never really got warm. I was not just scrolling through job listings. I was building something. Quietly. Slowly. Without telling a soul. I had this idea, one of those things you get obsessed with. A logistics app, something simple at first. Just me messing around in Notepad++ on an old laptop that shut off if you moved it the wrong way. I taught myself how to code by watching tutorials in the break room during lunch. The same break room where someone once stole my tuna sandwich and left the wrapper behind like a middle finger. Everyone thought I was stuck. I let them think that. It was easier that way. There is something about being broke that makes people comfortable around you. They do not feel threatened. They pat you on the back and say things like, "You'll figure it out." But deep down, they are glad you are not the one making moves. Because if you ever did, it would throw everything out of balance. So I kept my head down. Showed up early, left late. Worked weekends. I skipped birthdays, bachelor parties, even my own cousin's wedding, just to make sure I could afford another month of hosting fees for a prototype nobody believed in but me. And then something happened. I remember the exact moment. I was in my car, parked outside the warehouse, eating gas station trail mix. I refreshed my inbox and saw it. An email from a regional freight company. They wanted to test my app. I nearly choked. That was the start of everything. But back then, no one saw it coming. And they sure as hell were not ready for what came next. After that email, everything shifted. I could feel it in my chest, like something had cracked open and finally started letting in air. The company, Midline Freight, asked if I could do a trial run for one of their warehouses in Tulsa. Nothing huge, just basic tracking and route suggestions. But it was real. It was a shot. I remember staying up for 48 hours straight trying to clean up the back end. My code was a mess, held together with duct tape and prayers. I had to learn how to pitch it, how to sell it, how to talk like someone who belonged in those rooms. So I faked it, watched videos of tech guys doing interviews, studied how they moved, how they spoke, rehearsed my voice to sound calm even when my insides were screaming. When the trial actually worked, when the warehouse started saving time and fuel, I thought, maybe now people will listen. Maybe now they will see me differently. They did not. I told Ronnie about it one night over cheap beers on his back porch. His response? He laughed and said, "Dude, you really think you're going to be the next Steve Jobs or something?" Then he made a joke about me coding in my mom's basement, even though I had not lived with her in years. I laughed along, but it stung. Not because it was mean, because it told me exactly what I already suspected. They had put me in a box, and no one wants you to climb out of the box they built for you. Because if you do, it makes them wonder why they never tried. So I stopped talking. No more updates. No more explanations. I just went quiet. I picked up a second job overnight stocking shelves. Saved every penny. I ate canned soup and rice for weeks. Sold my TV. Canceled my gym membership. Every dollar went back into the project. I learned to stretch $35 across 2 weeks without blinking. Drove the same beat-up Honda Civic with the cracked windshield and no air conditioning through 3 summers. Every sacrifice had a purpose. I told myself it would pay off one day. That all the missed birthdays, all the awkward silences when people asked what I was up to, it would all be worth it. And then, out of nowhere, I got a message from a guy named Jerome, Midline's operations manager. Said he passed my app along to a friend who handled routing for a chain of regional carriers. Said they were interested in licensing a version of it. Licensing. That word hit different. I did not even know what that process looked like. I had to Google half the terms they used in the call. I played it cool, wrote down everything, and then stayed up all night trying to figure out what I had just agreed to. 2 months later, I got my first serious check. Not minimum wage. Not a bonus. This was 5 figures. For something I built. By myself. I remember holding that envelope in my hand, just staring at it like it might disappear. Like it was some prank. I did not cash it right away. Just kept it in a drawer for 2 days, pulling it out now and then to make sure it was still real. I thought, maybe this is it. Maybe this is the moment everything changes. And it did. But not in the way I expected. Because once the money came in, the questions started. And not the good kind. I did not buy anything flashy. No new car. No Rolex. No designer clothes. But even without showing it off, people noticed. It started with little things. I stopped checking the gas pump like I was defusing a bomb. Stopped counting items in my cart before going through checkout. I picked up the tab a few times without making a scene. Gave my mom a new fridge when her old one gave out. Quiet gestures. No announcements. But they noticed anyway. Ronnie saw me pull up one day in a rental. I was heading out of town for a meeting and figured I might as well drive something decent. His eyes lingered on the car, then on me. He did not say much, just nodded slowly and said, "Looks like somebody's doing all right." From that point on, the energy shifted. People I had not heard from in years started reaching out. An old coworker texted me out of the blue, asking if I still did computer stuff. Another guy from high school, who once called me a loser in front of a girl I liked, suddenly wanted to grab lunch and talk about projects. And then there was my family. Drew, my cousin who once joked that I would never make it out of warehouse work, sent me a message asking if I could help him start his own thing. Said he just needed a small investment. Something easy for someone like you. It was not the first time someone said that. Easy for you. Like none of it cost me anything. Like the nights I spent staring at a screen until my eyes burned were just a phase. Like the ulcers and missed holidays and working while sick somehow didn't count because there was no boss to clock me in. I tried to shrug it off. Told myself it was just jealousy. Or ignorance. But when I visited my mom one weekend, the whispers hit me straight in the chest. She had invited a few relatives over. Nothing fancy. Just coffee, cookies, small talk. I stepped into the kitchen to grab a glass of water, and I heard them. Probably something shady, right? Nobody makes that kind of money just out of nowhere. Bet he's into crypto or gambling. You see how he just stands there like he owns the place now? Every word hit like a nail. I froze. Then I walked back in like I had not heard a thing. They smiled. Asked me about work. Said they were proud of me. Someone even mentioned how success looks good on me. But I could see it in their eyes. Suspicion. Jealousy. Not pride. Not respect. I had worked for years hoping that when the day came, when I finally made it, they would see me differently. Maybe even be proud. Instead, I got side eyes and fake smiles. That night, as I drove back to my apartment, I kept thinking one thing over and over. They would have loved me more if I had stayed struggling. Because struggling made them feel safe. And now? Now they wanted a piece. At first, it was stuff I could justify. My mom asked if I could cover a plumbing repair. That was fine. I owed her more than a few lifelines. Then my uncle called about needing a short-term loan to hold him over until a side project paid out. I gave him $500, no questions asked. I told myself this was what success was for. To give back. To make things easier for the people who never had much. I wanted to believe I was doing good. But then Drew called again. Said he was in a bit of a situation. That his car was repossessed. That he just needed a few thousand to get it back so he could drive to work. He told me I would be saving his whole life. I asked him what happened to the job he had just posted about on social media. He said it was not working out. Got quiet. Said I would understand if I ever had to grind. I bit my tongue. I sent him 1,000 and told him it was a gift, not a loan. I did not want to hold it over him. I just wanted to be done with it. That was a mistake. Because once you give freely, some people stop seeing you as generous. They start seeing you as a faucet. A faucet that never turns off. More requests followed. Ronnie hit me up with a long-winded story about his girlfriend's rent. He said they were being evicted and she had no family to fall back on. He used words like blessing and God put you in this position for a reason. My aunt called crying about medical bills. Her husband called the next day asking for help fixing their boat. I wish I was kidding. Then came the confrontation. One night, after dodging Ronnie's calls for a week, I walked into my favorite bar, one of the few places I still liked, and saw him sitting there, waiting. He waved me over like nothing was wrong. Bought me a drink. Then, halfway through the second round, he leaned in and said, "So what's the deal, man? You too good for your old friends now?" I blinked. He laughed like it was a joke, but his eyes were dead serious. I tried to stay calm. Told him it was not about that. I said I had been busy, dealing with work stuff. He scoffed. "Work stuff," he repeated. "You mean stacking money and pretending you built it all by yourself?" I sat there, stunned. That was when I realized something that made my stomach turn. These people, my people, did not believe I earned it. They thought I got lucky, or cheated, or stole, or scammed. Anything but sweat and sacrifice. I left that bar early, the drink untouched. That night, I stared at the ceiling until the sun came up, thinking about every time I had lifted someone else out of a ditch, only for them to spit on me the second I climbed out of mine. And somewhere between midnight and morning, I felt something I did not expect. Shame, not for what I had done, but for believing they would be happy for me. It was a Sunday afternoon when it all came to a head. My mom had invited me over for what she called a small family lunch. I showed up with a bottle of wine and a knot in my gut. Something felt off before I even stepped through the door. Inside, it was not just my mom. The whole damn family was there. Drew, my aunt and uncle, a few cousins I had not seen since before the pandemic. It felt more like an intervention than a meal. Everyone was too nice, too smiley. We sat down. They made small talk, asked vague questions about how business was going. But I could feel it, like the air was too thick to breathe right. Then Drew spoke up. He said he had been thinking a lot about family investment opportunities. I nearly choked on my water. He pulled out a cheap blue folder, full of printouts and handwritten notes. Said he had an idea for a vending machine franchise. Wanted me to be the seed investor. Claimed it would pay me back tenfold. Low risk, he said. I did not even respond. I just leaned back and looked around the table. That was when my aunt chimed in, saying something about how God blesses certain people so they can bless others. Then my uncle added, "It would be a shame to forget where you came from." I felt something shift in me, like a door closing. I looked straight at my mother. Her eyes dropped. That silence, those 3 seconds where no one said anything, told me everything. This was not lunch. This was a setup. They did not invite me because they missed me. They did not care what I had built. They had gathered here today to carve pieces off of me. Quietly, politely, while passing mashed potatoes. So I set down my fork, pushed back my chair, and I spoke. Not loud, not angry, just clear. I gave when I had nothing. I gave when I was broke and tired and scared. I gave out of love. And every time I did, someone here made a joke about it or acted like it was owed. Everyone went still. I worked for years in silence, built something out of absolutely nothing. And instead of celebrating, you question it. You mock it. You try to chip away at it like it belongs to you. Drew tried to cut in. I held up a hand. No more loans. No more favors. No more explanations. I looked at each one of them. From now on, if you want to know how I got here, look in the mirror. Then ask yourself why you never believed I would. And I walked out. No yelling. No drama. Just the sound of my own footsteps. And behind me, a silence no one dared to break. 2 days after that lunch, I thought the storm had passed. I kept my phone on silent, ignored the texts, left the voicemails unheard. I needed space. Clarity. Time to rebuild the walls they had all climbed over. I was just settling into the quiet when I heard a knock at the door. Not the delivery guy. Not the neighbors. This knock was patient, like someone who was not planning to leave. When I opened it, I froze. It was Ronnie. But he did not look like the same guy who accused me of forgetting where I came from. He looked tired, hollow. His hoodie was soaked from the drizzle outside, and his hands were jammed into his pockets like he was holding something in. He asked if we could talk. My first instinct was to shut the door in his face. But something about him, maybe the slump in his shoulders, maybe the fact that he did not come in swinging, made me step aside. He sat on the edge of the couch like it was someone else's house. Quiet. Not his usual loud, jokey self. Then he said something that caught me completely off guard. "I lost my job last week." I blinked. Said nothing. He looked down at the floor. "I did not tell anyone. Not even Tara. I have been pretending to go to work, just driving around town." He laughed once. Not a funny laugh. The kind people let out when they are one wrong word away from breaking down. He said everything just kept falling apart. Bills piling up. His girl threatening to leave. His pride shrinking by the day. I saw you making it, and yeah, I got jealous. Mad, even. But really? I was scared. Scared that if someone like you could change their whole life, then maybe I never really tried. That silence between us, it was not uncomfortable this time. It felt like an old wound getting some air. He said he was sorry. Not just for that night at the bar, but for every time he laughed off my dreams. For every time he called me broke Mike behind my back. For every time he made me feel small, just to feel a little bigger himself. I thought if I made you doubt yourself, I could feel better about not doing anything with my own life. That line hit me harder than I expected, because I had done that too, once. Long ago, before all this. I had looked at people who were further ahead and told myself they just got lucky, that their success did not count, that their money must have come from somewhere dirty. It was easier than admitting I was scared I would never get there. So I sat with it. I did not forgive him right away, but I told him I heard him. That was all I could offer in that moment. He stood up, looked like he wanted to ask for help, but he didn't. He just nodded, said thanks, and left. And that night, I realized something I had not considered before. Not everyone who doubts you is rooting for your failure. Some people are just afraid your success means they have run out of excuses. I was hoping that after Ronnie's visit, things might start cooling off. They did not. In fact, it only got worse. That same week, I got a letter in the mail. A thick manila envelope with no return address, just my name printed in stiff, uneven handwriting. I opened it, thinking it was some contract I forgot to sign. Instead, it was a typed list. A list of every favor I had ever received from my family. 39 items. Labeled, dated, and described in unnecessary detail. December 15th, age 13. Borrowed Aunt Janine's winter coat for school trip. Value, $65. April 3rd, age 22. Stayed rent-free in Uncle Mike's spare room after quitting job. Value, $1,200. They even included things like Thanksgiving dinner, 2014, plate valued at $28. At the bottom was a final line in bold. Total balance owed to family, $13,490. I just stared at it. For minutes. My fingers went numb. At first, I thought it was a joke. Then I saw the note tucked into the back page. In my cousin Drew's handwriting. You said no more loans, so we figured it was time to settle up. I felt my throat tighten. This was not about money. This was punishment. A last-ditch effort to twist the narrative. To flip the script and make it look like I had been taking advantage of them all along. Like I owed them something for surviving. I took a photo of the entire document and sent it in a group message to all of them. Drew, my aunt, my uncle, even my mother. No words. Just the picture. Not 5 minutes later, my phone started lighting up. First came the excuses. It was meant to be funny. We thought you'd laugh. It's just a reminder of how much we've all shared. Then came the guilt. Do you know how hurt your mother was after you walked out? Your uncle was just trying to teach you a lesson. This is what happens when you isolate yourself. That last one hit different. I had spent so long trying to prove I belonged. Trying to win their approval. Trying to be the guy who finally made it without turning his back on the people who raised him. But maybe that was the problem. I had never turned my back. Even when they gave me every reason to. Even now, part of me wanted to believe they meant well. That maybe they were just scared. That maybe money had poisoned something that used to be love. But then I got the final message. From my mother. Just 6 words. We all miss who you were. That was it. Not who I had become. Not what I had accomplished. Just who I used to be. And for the first time, I let that truth settle fully in my chest. They did not want me back. They wanted me small. A week passed. I went silent again. No texts. No calls. I stopped checking social media entirely. The world could burn for all I cared. I was done handing out pieces of myself just to keep other people warm. Then late one night, I got an email. It was from my mom. The subject line was blank. Just her name. Something about that hit harder than it should have. I almost deleted it without opening. But I clicked. It was not long. Not emotional. Not even a full paragraph. I know you think we all turned on you. But you do not see what we see. You are not the same person anymore. You have changed. Everything is about money now. Maybe you should ask yourself who you became. That was it. No love, Mom. No signature. Just that. I sat there at my kitchen table, The soft hum of the fridge the only sound in the room. Rereading those lines until my vision blurred. And I realized something I had been too stubborn to admit until now. Maybe she was right. Not about me being selfish. Not about money changing me. But about the distance. Somewhere along the way, I had stopped hoping they would ever understand me. Stopped reaching out. Stopped trusting. Because what was the point? When every success brought more suspicion. When every kind gesture was met with entitlement. When every boundary made them act like I had broken some unspoken rule. The truth? I had changed. I had grown. I had stopped living in survival mode. Stopped scraping by. Stopped apologizing for wanting more. And they hated that. Not because it made me a bad person, but because it forced them to look at their own lives and ask themselves why they stayed stuck. Their resentment was not about the money. It was about the mirror. I closed the laptop. And I made a decision. No more explanations. No more guilt. No more dragging the past behind me like a broken cart with busted wheels. If they missed who I used to be, they were free to remember me however they wanted. But I was not going back. I had worked too damn hard to get here. And if peace meant walking alone, so be it. Just when I thought the worst of it was over, life threw one last twist at me. It was a Saturday morning. I was out front watering the sad little row of plants I kept promising to replace. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something told me to answer. Hey, it's Tara, Ronnie's girlfriend. Her voice was quiet, cautious, like she was not even sure she should be calling me. She said Ronnie had been admitted to the hospital the night before. Panic attack, maybe something worse. They were still running tests. He had collapsed during a shift at the warehouse where he had just started working again. Overworked. No insurance. She said he had been trying. Really trying. Then she asked the question I was afraid of. He told me not to ask you for anything. But if you could just visit. Even for a few minutes. I think it would mean something. I stared at the sidewalk, the hose still running in my hand. This was the moment, right? The final test. The guy who had once called me a joke. Who laughed when I said I was building something. Who said I thought I was better the second I stopped struggling beside him. And now he was lying in a hospital bed, maybe scared. Maybe humbled. Maybe just human. I said I would think about it. Hung up. Poured the rest of the water on a patch of dirt that would never grow anything. Then I sat on my porch for over an hour, just staring out at the street. Was this forgiveness? Was this weakness? Was I supposed to show up? Prove to myself that money had not made me cold. That I was still the guy who gave a damn, even when no one gave back? I pulled out my phone and scrolled through the list of missed messages. Most of them were still from family. One from Drew asking if I had gotten his revised pitch. One from my mother. Just a heart emoji. One from Ronnie. It was from the night he got fired. Weeks ago. Man, I do not know how you did it. I really don't. I'm proud of you. Even if I never said it. That cracked something in me. Not because I needed the praise, but because it sounded real. Unpolished. Late. But honest. And sometimes, that is all you want from the people who watched you climb. Just for them to say they saw it. And it mattered. I stood up, grabbed my keys, and got in the car. Not to prove anything. Not to rescue anyone. But because when everything else falls apart, you have to decide who you are. Even when no one else gets it. Especially then. The hospital room was dim and too quiet. That weird, sterile silence, where the only sound is the hum of machines and the occasional distant voice in the hallway. Ronnie was half sitting in bed, pale, eyes sunk deep into his face like he had not slept in days. When he saw me, his mouth opened, then closed again. No jokes, no smug grin, just a slow nod. I sat in the chair next to him. Neither of us spoke for a minute. Then he said it, voice hoarse. I thought success would change you. Thought you'd turn into one of them. But you didn't. He paused. We did. I swallowed hard. That hit deeper than I expected. He told me he had been thinking about all of it. How fast we used to laugh off dreams. How easy it was to mock what we did not understand. How the moment I pulled ahead, he felt left behind. And instead of catching up, he got bitter. I needed to believe you cheated, he said. Because if you didn't, then I had no excuse. I could have said a lot in that moment. Could have unloaded years of frustration. Could have listed every time he made me feel small just to protect his own ego. But I didn't. Because none of that mattered anymore. All I said was, I know. We sat there a little longer, watching some old TV show neither of us cared about. When I left, he thanked me. Not for money. Not for help. Just for showing up. That night, I went home and deleted every draft of the reply I had been writing to my family. The one where I explained myself, where I defended my boundaries, where I tried, one last time, to make them see. They never would. And that was okay. Because here is what I finally understood. Money does not change you. It just strips the mask off everyone around you. Success does not poison relationships. It reveals who was using you as a crutch. It shows who was rooting for your rise, and who was only comfortable when you were beneath them. The truth? I did not become arrogant. They just could not handle the version of me that no longer needed saving. They missed the broke me, the guy they could control, the one they could laugh at, borrow from, and remind of his place. But that version of me is gone. I buried him in sweat, late nights, and silent sacrifices. And from that grave, I built a life. One with peace, one with purpose, one that no longer fits inside the small spaces they try to keep me in. Now, I choose my circle. Now I guard my time. Now, I know the difference between those who clap for you and those who just want to stand close enough to get noticed when you shine. So no, I am not going back. Not because I think I am better, but because I finally know what I am worth. And I will never again explain that to people who only listened when I was struggling. The money did not change me. It changed who was willing to stand beside me when I finally stood tall.